là, on n'a pas. One moment. Let me go on the front with these first.
Je sais qu'est-ce que le mien est là, on est toute notre corps. Avec les autres depuis 4-5 points, c'est ça. Avec ça là.
Today's guest speaker is Dr. Urancia. He's not new for us, but I brought his bio and I will read it. It is, I don't know, but in my language we say that small mouth, big talks. When I introduce Dr. Urancia, I feel like that I am just a small little person to introduce Dr. Urancia. Dr. Urancia is a senior lecturer of business technology management at Concordia University. He is an ordained minister with the Spiritual Science Fellowship in Montreal, Canada, a certified professional counselor with the Professional Association of Christian Counselor and Psychotherapy of Canada, certified and transpersonal physiotherapy by the European Transpersonal Association, and a professional engineer with the Professional Engineer of Ontario. His spiritual science researches has been published in the Journal of Neuroquantology, Journal of Consciousness, Exploration and Research, and Scientific God Journal. Today's topic is the quantum consciousness model and the theology of the Urancia book. So, Dr. Rao, now it is all yours.
Thank you very much. Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour. D'accord. Aujourd'hui, je suis ici pour montrer un peu ma recherche. Je pense que tout le monde ici fait la même chose. Vraiment savoir notre origine, d'où on vient, c'est quoi exactement Dieu, what is God, c'est quoi exactement la relation entre nous et Dieu. Et il existe l'évidence que Dieu existe. Est-ce que nous sommes capables de se connecter avec cette sciences universelles. So this is the talk about today. So let's think about. I mean, my journey, a little bit of me from Mexico, land of the champions. Believe in connection with the earth, connection with the universe, and then at the same time Catholic, unification with the European idea of Christianity, Trinity, all those things, all together. So I come from those two backgrounds. So I represent the unification of these two cultures, deux cultures, le chamanisme, la chrétienté, les deux visions, le monde qui s'unifie dans une seule vision qu'on appelle science spirituelle, or spiritual science. The idea is to understand really who we are, why we're here, and at the same time, how this relates to science. The science is tangible. On peut voir toujours la science, la technologie. L'ordinateur, ça marche. Mon cellulaire, ça marche. On voit beaucoup de choses qui ça marche. Et que la science est quelque chose qu'on peut toucher, qu'on peut vraiment connaître. But the idea is, how do we really link those two worlds? Christianity from Europe, Shamanism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, all these religions that they are there, it's a way for us to unify them. It's a way for us to say, they're really talking about the same thing. Are they illusions of the mind? Or they're really something that we can use to put everything together, So, to start my own journey, as somebody who started in the search for truth or the search for origins, I started studying all religions, and there was one common thing among all religions: the ability of the human, l'habilité de nous de se connecter à l'univers. We all have the ability to connect with that universe, and the universe is multidimensional. There's so many different beings. We call them angels, we call it terrestrials, it doesn't matter who they are. There's so much intelligence that we don't see. And as we are able to connect as humans to this different intelligence, we're able to get this information. And that's really the origin of religions. At least that's my interpretation. People connect to those higher planes of existence, and then they get some information because we all one. The idea here is the universe is all one. We all come from the same source. L'univers est vraiment unifié. Tout le monde vient de la même source. We call it God. It's really the source of energy that everything we see. Everything we see comes from one source. And this is what I found myself when I was looking for different options, different religions. And then as somebody who went engineering, I studied electrical engineering, I studied mathematics, all those things. I said, well, is there any way for me to unify everything that I know? Because it must be one truth. It cannot be that all religions are right. It cannot be that science is wrong and religion is right, or vice versa, right? So this is a way for me to say that it really there is all one. And through my search, I started looking for the elements, the theory, let's call it the science behind the spiritual science, so we can connect everything. Because we are living in times where people are confused. What should I believe? Should I go into Christianity? Should I go into Buddhism? Should I just be atheist? What it means atheist, really? It means I don't really believe in the God of the Bible, but I still have the need to know something. So, I will connect with science, right? Science becomes my new God. But then science also lacks emotion, lacks really the purpose. You see us as a little bit like just matter. So we are here on a temporal basis. And we love life. We say, okay, I really want to be here. I want to really have eternal life. It's really possible to be eternal. And the question is, how and how it works. Is anybody here, anything here, that can tell me what the heck is going on, right? So then we're all confused. And what I found is that the beginning, the very beginning of the search for God is the one self. Everything starts by learning to know who you are. If you don't know who you are, you cannot learn something more complex and still complex, God. Because ourselves, we are God. Only you know it. So we have to start by learning who we are. And we're very powerful. And this is what I'm talking about right today. The power of the human mind and consciousness and you is so much that by exploring this power, you will come to realization that really there's an afterlife, not just an afterlife. You've always been here because there's no time, there's no space. When you start opening your mind to the idea that everything you see right now is just a small portion of reality, then you start understanding that little time and space are just illusions for you to have an experience. Because the mortal mind needs to experience things to something we call time and space. But is really time and space real? And if not, what is real, right? What is real? So this is what I have today. I don't want to take too much time. So the question is, what do I think about? This is the model that I have created myself through different sources, so I could understand a little bit about who we are. So the first thing is that we have to understand that there's no matter and energy. It's just energy. Everything you see as matter is really condensed energy. It's energy that it has a form. But everything is energy. And everything within that matter, who we are, is really mostly empty space. All what we need is empty space. So it's like an illusion, right? We have these particles, we call it quantums, that vibrate, and they make the illusion that we are here. So we can see each other with a form, right? And you're thinking, okay, but so then, if everything is just an illusion, what the heck, who we are, right? So this is part of the first thing, the first, I would say, the start point, at least for me, it was to understand, how can I understand really the connection to God or things I don't see? How can I understand really the connection to the Spirit if I don't see? Well, you know what? There are things you cannot see, because really what you see is really just an illusion. And then I studied engineering, right? So, cell phones, right? How is it possible that a cell phone signal can cross the wall? You see the wall looks solid. It is not solid, because the signal can cross the wall. That means that wall, it looks solid, and I can see it solid, but it's not solid. So then you're like, okay, so what is real and what's not real, right? So this is a little bit of the first thing that I started realizing when it comes to understanding who I am. Secondly, our conscious seems to have what we call non-locality. Okay? What means non-locality? That means it's multidimensional. It doesn't live only in time and space. So then we say, what is the evidence of that? Well, there's people that have near-death experiences that they die, literally, and they say, well, during this experience, I was here, I was there, I saw this and that, and then the conscious was able to survive that. You have people that start experiencing with remote vision, right, where you can actually move, and then where word you want, just by intention, and describe places, which tells me that consciousness is not really subject to time and space, right? It's way beyond that, right? So this is one thing we start thinking about, or start realizing about consciousness. And the other thing is the connectivity between each other, okay? At the beginning, science says, well, maybe it was just connectivity between me and you, or me and her. And then we realized that, no, everything is connected because everything comes from one source. Let's think about one father, right? The whole universe is to have one father, one energy system, and because we all come from the same place, we have strings to that source, and to that source, we can connect. What is the evidence? Well, I will show you, but mediums, people that have telepathy abilities, all these kind of things. Yes, there's a lot of wrong that, there's a lot of things people say are wrong, but then the scientific stuff that show that it's real, right? I mean, there's a way for us to connect, and they're thinking, okay, that means we have invisible wires, right, that seems to be there, that connects everybody. Okay? So this is how religions start, really. You have a person who realizes, well, I'm connected to the universe. So they start with intention, not prayer or by using meditation, doesn't matter what it is. They connect to something they call an angel, because the angel is the only thing they can visualize, or God or something. And then they start having a communication. Right? Okay. And the communication, normally, if it comes from a higher being, it will enlighten you with more information about yourself, about the universe. And you say, wow, this looks good. So you start a new religion, right? It's okay. It's like that. But we're humans, right? I mean, so we get information, we interpret it the wrong way, the way we have, based on evolution, based on who we are. That's why you have so many different visions of religions. But everything starts with that, right? So if you understand that the whole universe is connected, the reality is that everyone here can connect to anything. Okay? And the source of everything is God. So obviously God is reachable, but it's not just God. There's so many different levels of beings that exist in the universe that we cannot see because they exist in a different frequency. We see here this reality here. Think about it as a reality that is done in a particular radio channel. If I change the frequency from 1 hertz, you're in a different reality. So really, we can have here millions and millions and millions of hertz running at the same time just by changing a little frequency. The same way happens when you're listening to your radio. Okay? So, but they're all connected. So when people start experimenting with these ideas, that the minds are connected, and they get information, oh, I'm connecting to an angel, I'm connecting to God, I'm connecting to whatever. But the reality is they're just experimenting the wonder of the universe, which means it's extremely complex, there's so much information out there, and it's a little bit like the little kid that starts experimenting with the internet, right? You go to the internet, everything's connected, you say, wow, this is amazing, there's so much information. The internet of the universe exists, and we are part of it. But only opens when people want to, right? The here is like, how do I connect? I want to do it. Sure, you can do it. Only when you want to, and when your consciousness is ready for it. There's a level of maturity. We'll talk about that later, but there's a level of maturity that you need to reach to be able to start opening these parts of who you are. So this is a little bit about what I found through my own research. And the other thing that I learned is a little bit about how reality is created. Okay? Everything you see there, me, myself, yourself, the building, how it works. Because people don't question, they come to this world and they see things that already exist. But who created these things? Oh, God created. How? Oh, in 7 days. It doesn't make sense. 7 days, I mean, come on. Give me a better, more logical explanation. Well, the logical explanation is simple. There's one source of energy, and this energy is a wave function. That means it's not really solid. It's a wave function. It means it's a vibration. That's what it is, right? And this energy, believe it or not, it works with you and me. Okay? So when this energy from the universe comes, this intelligent energy, connects with me and you, it creates a reality. Okay? So we are building the reality of this world together. Me, you, all who are here in the audience, the whole planet, together with God. So it's not just God alone doing things. It's us. So when you go there and pray, God, please change things, stop the war. You know what? You created a war. You stop it. Because everything you do, everything that exists here is a creation of yourselves. So don't ask me to do things because you are the creator yourself. I'm just giving you the energy, right? So the reality that we see, and this is proven in labs, it's not just talking, is the energy has vibration with multiple possibilities. It's that God or the source is, okay, here's the energy, but anything can be. There's no me who's dictating what's going to be the future. It's not the will of God, it's the will of you. You decide what you want. Sends the energy, the world, and we as humans, as a collective thinking, we take the energy and we create everything around us. And this is amazing because in, our ignorance, we think, oh, the world is a disaster. God is punishing us. You did something wrong. No, you're punishing yourselves. That's what it is. Oh, let me pray to God and say, God, please, help me. No, you work together as a collective and you fix it. Because you created this. So this is how we start understanding how the universe works. There is a participation of the Creator which says, I give you what we call free will. Here is the energy of the universe to you, and you're the one who uses your own intentions, your own free will to create the reality. And then everything changes. Some religions are saying, well, you have to go to the temple to pray. And then people say, well, this is not working. I'm going to pray, and nothing happens. It's not God. It doesn't exist God. Because God is not, He's not doing what I'm saying. And sometimes I become atheist because all God doesn't exist. But if we understand that really what's happening here is not that God doesn't exist, that God really is there just to facilitate your desires and your dreams. That's what it is. So if He loves you so much, He doesn't want robots. He doesn't want somebody who does my will. I want somebody who do their own will. And I'm going to give you the means to do it. Or in ignorance, we think that, no, we cannot do nothing by ourselves. God is doing it for us. No. God is just giving us the tools. And this is what science is doing, right? This is amazing. This is when we start realizing that things are not as simple as we think it is. The key aspect here is, okay, the energy of God is here to create reality. And I want the reality or the world go in a particular direction. I want to get a job, I want to have a nice family, I want to have, life. And then we start thinking, no, there must be somebody there who make things for me. Somebody there, maybe it's the government, maybe if I immigrate from Mexico to Canada, things will change, right, myself. People think it's always something external, but somehow it's the cause of the misery. Okay? Till they realize that, no, everything around you, it moves because your intentions are really the ones that move everything. The question is, what it means intentions? That means to wake up and you say, I want this to happen. I want this to happen. You desire it. And that energy influences all the energy around. This God energy that comes from the universe is affected, okay? But it's not affected by just me and you, collective. That's why we group as countries. What is a country? It's a group of people that believe the same thing. We come together because we believe in diversity, we believe in equality, we have values that make us together. And then we build Canada because there's people that have the same intentions, so as long as they're building into something that we want. What other countries are in misery? Because these people haven't realized that it's themselves who are creating the misery. And they're thinking, oh, it's because the United States or because some power is coming to destroy me. There is God or something. They always try to think that the misery comes from somewhere else. But they never stop to realize that as a collective here, we're creating our misery. Okay? So as we start understanding really how we work as humans, and slowly understand that really we have a lot to learn. We have a lot to learn here because we are thinking that everything is out of our control. That things, pandemics and hurricanes, they come, because God sent this thing. No. Everything, pandemics, and hurricanes, anything is created by yourself. Because the universe, what it's doing is saying, well, I need to balance things. I cannot let you destroy the universe. If we are destroying the universe by our own thoughts and intentions, and the balance comes here. As a pandemic, as a hurricane, as a catastrophe, to bring us back to balance. Because the universe says you can do whatever you want, as long as you don't affect me, which is the universe. At some point, has to put a stop. Okay? So when we think about pandemics and think about these things, it's really ourselves doing it. And we go there and pray to God, oh, please stop the pandemic. I'm sorry, but you created yourself. And then you created. So as you start understanding, we are responsible for everything around that. And we are given the gift of free will. We are given the gift of creating everything around us. With great power comes great responsibility. We are responsible for everything that happens. Don't come to me, God, to say, fix your problems. You can create any religion you want, and you can claim that you are the Pope, or you can create the priest. You can do whatever. Look, anybody here the same. For me, God, every person sitting here has the same body. I don't see any difference between somebody with a doctorate or somebody who believes. Those are illusions that we create ourselves in our minds. We're giving people power because as a collective, we think that somebody has more power than us. The reality is that everybody here has the same power because we affect the same way the energy as anybody else. Not because somebody has a more hierarchy in a religion, because that person has more power to God. God treats everybody the same. And the proof is that we all die. And ever see those people that claim that they are the chosen for the God, not dying, or living longer, or not getting sick? No. Right? Everybody gets sick, everybody dies. And the reason this happens is because this is the way to signal you, we're all the same. Nobody is the selected or the chosen one. We're all the same. And this is where everything starts. To detach yourself from that system that we have created ourselves, of authorities, thinking that somebody is there to do the work for you. Now the question is, okay, what about science? Is it really explaining who we are? You have two views. Materialistic view, everything is matter, right? So then neuroscientists, the people who study the brain, opens your brain, right? Opens your brain, does studies with rats and whatever. And they figure out, but the brain really is not that complex. It's just a set of switches that go on and off. And they measure it, and they figure, is that possible? That your emotions, your dreams, who you are, it is just switches that go on and off. Is that what it is? And they say, well, that's what we see. So that must be. So then the whole system is based on the idea that all exists is what they see. Right? They don't think about what they don't see. They see what they see. So the doctor will say, okay, he has a brain tumor, let's open his brain and mutilate his brain and remove the brain. Because they understand that that tumor was really generated by the same person, by the way he thinks. And instead of helping that person to change the way he thinks or the way he sees reality, he's trying to do the savage thing of removing things, because the person thinks that all that happens is because randomness. There's no God, there's no system. All it is just random things. Why you got a tumor? I don't know, but we just remove it. And nobody bothers about understanding how things happen in the first place. So neuroscience has that vision, but it's very simplistic. How can you say me and you are just a box of switches running? Doesn't make sense. What about your dreams, your emotions, your connection to people, love, all those things? Are that just boxes, just switches? Is that what we are? It's hard to believe. So I don't believe that. I call that, it's probably most likely fake. So the question is, then what is the brain and what is you? Are the same thing or not? And the question is, how do I know that? You are the same thing, but at the same time, not. What it means? The challenge of life is to be able to control and empower your true self, call it your energy system that is immortal, to control your brain. Your brain is there to give you an experience. It's the way to transform this energy you see around into something that you can understand, call it reality, and it uses time and space to give you some meaning to you. Because everything is energy. That's all it is. If somebody wanted to take a picture of what's going on here, it's just waves and frequencies. That's all it is. So if you're conscious, how can it make sense of all that? So then the brain, what it does, it says, well, I need to give you an experience, so I'm going to translate all that into reality. And so the brain is a computer. That's what it is. It takes all the energy and it creates the illusion of time. The time is just a way for you to have an idea of what the sequence of events, and it creates an illusion of space. In reality, everything is connected. It's just one bubble of energy, all put together. That's what we are. But then, in the physical world, the brain gives an illusion that we're individuals, that we are away from each other, that we have different personalities. Why? Because it wants you to grow by yourself. If you are collective, you never understand really that you need to develop your own personality. But when you are an individual, you are started to develop your personality. And one thing also I learned from my study is that the brain has different configurations. Why does somebody inherit their parents' genes and have certain, abilities or certain ways? Because the universe is so magic that through your intentions, believe it or not, before you were born, you say, you know what, I want to do this, I want to do that. And through intentions, the consciousness chooses the brain to born, so that that brain has a configuration, so that person can reach his dreams. So whenever you think about who you are, this is what you want it to be. Now, you might say, I don't like it. I don't like the way I am. I don't like to be shy. I don't like this, to be called this and that. Guess what? You can change it. You don't have to be who you are right now. So part of what you learn through neuroscience also is that the brain can change configuration. How? By your own free will. Okay? Myself, I was an introvert. I couldn't talk. Forget about me sitting here in front of you guys talking. I couldn't talk to anybody. How do you change from being that to another person? Through free will. You take the challenge, you face the fear, and then slowly you start changing your personality. So anybody here doesn't like the way they are, you can change. This is how wonderful we are. When you start experiencing these things, then you say, why am I wasting my time with the Bible? Nothing wrong with the Bible, but this is just the beginning of the journey. Those books are there to give you just the beginning of the journey. Doesn't matter, Quran, Bible, whatever it is. They're books to give you the basics. It's to introduce you to who you are. So introduction is level 1. Like when you go to school, grade 1. Okay. I start with Islam, I start with Christianity, whatever it is. They'll have things in common, they'll have the basics. But then, what is next? I cannot be stuck with this thing forever. I need to grow. I need to move to different levels. So teach me. Well, everything is within you. You have to start wanting to slowly open your eyes that you are way more complex than you are. And by experimentation, okay? Because I can be talking here for 2 hours, 3 hours. But it's when you sit one day and say, you know what? I want to change this thing for myself. I don't like the way maybe I'm too judgmental. I like to judge people. Or maybe I'm this and that. Can I change it? And then you start realizing, yes, you can. I say, well, maybe what I'm reading is not totally wrong. Life is about experimenting. Okay? Those guys that think that they say something, they know something, but they're hidden in their temples, not to criticize it, but that's what I see, really are the blind leading the blind. Why? Because these guys don't want to go to the world and experience things. The real one who knows something is the one who takes the challenge, goes to the world, and gets beaten by the world. It's when you get beaten by the world that you learn something. Okay? So, what I'm saying is, life is about living life. That's what it is. Don't try to find answers in places that are empty. That's where I found myself at the beginning. All religions, not even one. I never found an enlightened person because they're all hidden in the temples. Nobody wanted to get out. And life is about getting out and facing. Because that's how God, the Creator, designed the system. If the God, the creation, wanted us to be just hidden in our temples, He wouldn't give us physical bodies. He wouldn't give us the ability to feel things, to have illness, to go through misery. What this cosmic mind One is that you get out of your house and you learn. That is the true teacher, the true religion, life. Stop worshiping gods that don't exist to change your life. You are the one who is in charge of your life, but you have to learn how to do it. How you learn it? By living it. So that's one of the things that I learned and proposing. Obviously, that doesn't seem to be too good for people that goes into the business of religion, right? Because I mean, people say, well, how come you claim to be Christian and you talk bad about temples and priests? No, I'm not talking about bad than them. I'm just saying that those people are like you and me. They're people that try to find their ways, and they decide to take that path because they thought that was the path. And that's respectable. But I just didn't believe that was a path. Okay. I just disagree with them. That's all it is. And we have the right to disagree. That's why we're conscious. We are able to say, this is what I believe. And this is what I want to do in my life. So it's part of who we are. You know, everybody can decide to find God or find them by the way they are, and they have the right to create institutions. But it doesn't mean I have to believe them. Why should I believe them? No, because you're going to go to hell. Okay, but do you really know that? What you know, how can you explain this? Oh, because God punishes you. That doesn't make sense. I mean, why would I be here? If God can see the future, why He would bring me here so I can be punished? That doesn't make sense, right? So if it doesn't make sense, it's because it's not real. You have something in you that is God itself, in you, who's teaching you what is real and what is not real. So part of this presentation is about teaching you that really what Christianity was about. It was not about creating temples, it was not about creating Jesus to worship. It was teaching people that in them, in their consciousness, they have a little piece of the universe that can teach them things. Because the universe knows everything. So by connecting to that energy, you can guide yourself. That was really Christianity. How can we go from that to that? That's called power. It calls, people that want to produce the most sacred thing you have, which is your connection to God. You say, oh, but I can use that to control them. Okay? So most disinformation that I found was given to people from a long time ago. Okay? It's not new. The difference is that people that got it, they say, oh, this is powerful stuff. I want to use this to slap these guys. Let me keep this information secret. And today, or these days, because the internet, because things, we're now able to understand that really, we're all victims of really systems that were created to make a system, a slave system, but to use true concepts, true realities. So that the thing is, all it is you want to find God, He's already there, sitting with you. What you have to do is experience it. When you experience it, it's not a Bible, it's not a priest, it's yourself going to be convinced that everything's about you learning to manage your own God inside of you. So this is part a little bit about what I talk about. And science, okay, what has science to say? I'm not going to believe this, it's too scientific, I have there for you to see, but science is basically trying to say, okay, I look at different religions, different spiritual traditions. Can we prove it in the lab? No, because again, science became very powerful because science is a way for us to agree on those things, right? The problem with religions of authority before science, think about back in medieval times, there was the Catholic Church that would say, this is what everybody has to believe. That's it. You don't like it, I will just burn you. Inquisition, right? So I don't agree. That's how it works. And who's to say that? Oh, because Paul talks to God and he doesn't knows everything. So you have to follow blindly. Eventually people start waking up and say, well, I'm sorry, but everything he's saying, it makes no sense. Right? So they started rebellions, right? You know the whole story about Protestantism with Luther, and you have that created more freedom in Europe. So then in England, there was one man that was able to explore science called Isaac Newton. Right? Isaac Newton was a religious man because thank that he was no longer under the authority of the Catholic Church, he was able to do his work. Otherwise, we would have killed him. Right? So he started learning, no, there's energy systems that govern our physical reality. There's gravity, right? There's electromagnetism. And then people start experimenting in the labs. Wow. Yes, this is real. That's the beginning of science. Whenever somebody thinks about something, he proves it. It's not just talking. It's me showing it. Right? So we are living times where science is saying, well, the brain cannot just be a box of switches. It doesn't make sense. We are not just a box of switches. We need more than that. So can we actually take those concepts from Hinduism, religions, Christianity, and prove it in the lab? That's the thing. So you have a famous scientist called, his name is Raleigh. Dean Raleigh. I had a pleasure to meet this gentleman once, very intelligent fellow. He said, okay, you know what? I'm going to make the mission of my life to prove to the world that we're all connected. There's really one energy system that connects everything. And he starts experimenting with telekinesis, with telepathy, clairvoyance, etc., to show the world that everything that traditions somehow thought, it can be proved in science. So that's one guy. There's another people who are into biology, and they say, okay, what about time? Can plants communicate? Plants, you know? And then he found out, yes. Not just through one time, over periods of time. He believed that plants can actually communicate outside time and space. One plant can see, for example, a danger in the future, and then communicate the plant in the past, so it can actually protect themselves. And he said, wow, it's amazing how plants can have the ability to see each other, to be clairvoyant, you know, right? So then he's thinking, well, if plants can do it, obviously we can do it. You know, this is a little bit of what science are trying to do to make us understand how reality works. Then this guy, who was also associated with the Spiritual Science Fellowship back in the 80s. He was an engineer who retired, and he made his mission to prove to the world the survival of human consciousness. Okay? The question is, you survive. Does the mind survive death? And then he's thinking, how can I prove this? So then he goes first. His first activity was to learn Buddhism. He started learning Buddhism, meditation, because he wanted to himself be able to manage his own consciousness to get out of the body. So he started to experience astral traveling at will, and then to photography, he started capturing the energy leaving his body. That was his first attempt. But then people, the people that are materialistic, it's all about belief, right? If you are really so much into matter, you're blind by matter, doesn't matter if I bring you pictures, oh, it's Photoshop and this is changed. So his mission was to say, no, I really want to show the proof. There's a while after that. So he couldn't get it, he couldn't convince people, with the pictures. And we said, well, maybe you have an energy system, but doesn't mean that that energy will survive that. Okay, so then he started experimenting with radio frequencies. Okay, he figures if you die, your energy will go somewhere. And that place where it goes is a different frequency. And because everything's frequency, there must be a way for me to communicate to that dimension or to that heaven through frequency. So he starts experimenting with radio energy, with radio frequencies. But then he realized that the main problem is that when these entities or these deceased people wanted to communicate, they needed to have a way to ground the energy into the physical reality. It's like me talking to you. Let's say you are in Canada, you're talking to your relatives in India or in Mexico, some other. You need a telephone, right? And you need the system that's somehow able to connect with each other. So if you're how can I make a telephone that connects to the people, right? So that was a little bit challenging. So then he started studying mediumship. Okay, and mediumship is a very controversial topic because he figured, like most people, that there's very few ways they can do it. Okay, why we don't know. But the reality is that how do you test a real one? Okay, he went to the trouble to find a real one. Okay, he found a real one. He kept the person's name confidential in the official release of the information because obviously he didn't want people to know this person. But he understood that the medium, all it's doing is opens a portal between two worlds. It's like we have the ability, me and you, anybody, to connect to multiple dimensions. But only few people can develop it. Why? We don't know for sure, but there are obviously certain things like, exercising, practice, maybe genetics, I don't know. But some people can do that, right? Can connect to multiple dimensions. So the medium can translate the energy, going from a higher dimension to a lower dimension. So this is what he did. Okay, he took the medium. Okay, now you're going to talk to a dead person. Okay. So the medium goes there, and the energy is grounded in physical plane, and then to the radio system, he starts listening. Okay? And then he started realizing that there's actually some sounds coming. So wow, I'm getting somewhere. Okay? But then he realized that the problem is that in the physical world, we use a voice. Right? So then, and in the spiritual world or in the higher dimensions, they don't have voices. They use telepathy, they use something else. So how can you translate that energy, telepathy or anything, into voice? So then he found a very interesting mechanism to translate energy into voice. So after this experiment, finally he was able to connect to a real dead person. This person died, right? Okay. Which is Dr. George Jeffries Mueller. Okay. Like science projects. Okay, you're talking to that person? Fine. How do you know you're talking to that person? You actually go to the trouble to identify the identity of the person. It's not just saying I'm talking to somebody. Name, where he was born, where he worked, and everything. I'm talking to this man. Okay? Now this man, who himself was a scientist, in the other side, in the other dimension, started teaching him how the other dimension works to help him to build this device. Okay, so there was a collaboration between those two worlds. Very interesting, right? Two scientists collaborating to build a telephone system. Okay? So then they created what we call the spirit com. The spirit com is a device for those two entities to communicate. And he has hours of recording. You can find it on the internet. Hours of recording conversations of him with that entity. Okay? This work obviously never went anywhere. Why? Because we live in a system that's driven by money, right? So if you're an investor, you figure this is too hot for me. This is gonna be very hard to sell. I'm gonna have to deal with all religious people. They're gonna kill me. I'm gonna have to deal with all pressure from the system. Nobody wanna touch this. It's too hot for the times. So the project died. Okay? But the evidence exists. That means they're still able to see what happens, but nobody wanted to pursue this. The minute you start touching things where they disrupt the whole society and the whole system, nothing works, because then the investors, the financial people will think, I don't want to touch it. I will have imagine, all those churches that are very strong in the United States, they will go after me. So then I'm not gonna go and do that. So then that's why this project never went anywhere, financially speaking. But it's there for us to see. There you have in Mexico another great scientist who was like into shamanism, and because he started seeing one thing he realized in shamanism is that, okay, wait a second, there is a depressed guy that goes to see a psychiatrist, and psychiatrist never has cured one depressed person in their life. Doesn't work. That's what it is, right? They just try to make you stabilize, but they never cure you. Okay. And then he sees a shaman in Mexico. The guy comes depressed, and he comes clean. Oh, how this works? It means if I want to be scientific about it, shamanism has more success rate than psychiatry or medicine. So then he started looking into shamanism in a more scientific way. Okay? Because he figured, obviously these guys can do things that those guys cannot do. With all the degrees from Harvard or whatever, doesn't matter. There's not even one single case in the psychiatric community that have been able to cure anybody from any mental illness with medicine, with pharmaceutical products. So he said, he must do something. So he started understanding how the connection works, and through science, he was able to show the connectivity of people by using an experiment where he realized that through intentionality, people can connect each other. So he put the students to meditate in two different rooms, two different chambers. They were isolated. There was no way for them to cheat by using telephone systems. It was totally isolated. And he was able to prove that through intentions, one person was flashed with a light, and in the other person would receive that flash of light measurable by using an EEG device that measures the electrical signals in the brain. So they was able to see that there was instantaneous transfer of information from brain to brain, with no wires. The guy disappeared. After this was published, years after, it vanished from Earth. Somebody disappeared. You don't know where he is. Okay? Why? You probably know why, right? I mean, this is too much. Imagine, for example, what would happen to all the telecommunication firms, companies on Earth, if we have the technology to communicate with each other with no telephone systems. Right? So those companies say, I'm sorry, but this is technology, not good for me. So there's appeared here. Somebody's appeared here. We don't know who. Okay? So the reality is that we are very powerful, but there's also an economic system that we have. And we have a power system. We have a political system that keeps us somehow under control. But anything here trying to discover disrupt the system. And then when people say, well, this is too difficult because if we realize that this is real, what happens to religion? What happens to, because they're all connected. Religions are connected to governments are connected to financial institutions. They all is like a power, network that somehow they are agree on things to keep us here stable, right? So anything that is disruptive, they don't like. So then obviously, out. So another experiment that I want to discuss with you today is Dr. Persinger. Dr. Persinger was a professor at Urancia University, a professor that was neuroscience. He started experimenting with, he was also interested in religions, but he wanted to experiment with mysticism. But he started thinking about, is there any way for me to induce mystical experience by using energy? Is there any way for me to understand the energy aspect of our consciousness? So he experimented a lot with telepathy as well. Experimented a lot with induction of mystical experiences by using energy. Because he realized that when you go and do mantra meditation, right? And people go into a higher state of consciousness or alpha state of consciousness, he realized really what's happening here is that the person is, through repetition, is inducing an electromagnetic field that makes you go into that state. So he started to find the connection between science, which is energy, and mystical experiences, to understand why people do those things and why we have those experiences. So then he started understanding that really what's going on is that we are energy, and we are somehow connected. So this is another experiment. This person, believe it or not, had a lab with a lot of students doing experiments in this. And believe it or not, he got a lot of money from the government of Canada to understand the nature of human consciousness. Okay. The idea is that he tried to figure religions somehow are popular for a reason. It makes people believe that they're connected to something superior. But what means that exactly, something superior? And then he started understanding, at the end of the day, it was nothing more than energy, and people experimenting with energy. That's what it was. And it was figured, okay, but that's how energy works. So one of the few people really that tried to go to the bottom of things and try to understand really what really is going on. The collapse of the wave function, what it means, there's different experiments. The most common one is the double slit experiment, when they use photon energy, right, to demonstrate that when somebody observes the energy, it goes into one side or the other, and when there's no energy is not observed, the energy can go one way or the other, or two places at the same time. This is where we start understanding that the energy that comes to the universe really is still not determined till we observe it. Observation is the way for the energy to take one path or the other, or to take a form. So then they start understanding the connection between energy, matter, and consciousness. It's a little bit of understanding because there's a connection, right? That we still are trying to understand. Non-locality, tons of experiments from the near-death experiences. That's something you already know. One interesting one is from this Professor Lorber, that he examined people with some disease. We call it is hydrocephalus, okay, or water in the brain. Okay? What it means is that he went to Brazil or some places where they have people with this condition. Some children, right, for some reason, they have no brain. Or they have very small brain. Why? Because they get water. And when they develop, the brain is very small. It's a tiny little thing. And then he figures, okay, if your mind, your thoughts, your intelligence come from the brain, then these people with a very tiny brain, they must have intellectual challenges, right? That's what people think. So he goes there and examines these people with little brains, and to his surprise, they were not just average intelligence, some of them were even more intelligent than average. So then they figure, okay, so what it is then? That means that when we think about intelligence, it's really not what we think it is, because the brain is not really responsible for all those mental functions of intelligence. So then we start questioning all these things. I mean, some of the experiments, they start to make them wonder, really, if what we know about ourselves is real. Right? I mean, there's so much to learn. You know, when science thinks that it has learned something, we just open the box to something else. That we are endless when it comes to knowledge of who we are. We're very complex. You know, it's not just a little brain, you know, who has genes, who has some neurons and this. No, it's a very complex system we have. And the more you study it, the more you realize that we have too much to learn about ourselves because we have infinite potential. Dr. Penrose and Hameroff, two also scholars that they were very important in development of consciousness, started to discover, okay, if consciousness and the brain are two different things, right? How they are connected. There must be a way to connect them. So then, Hameroff is a doctor specialized in anesthesiology, and to anesthetics, he realized that people, when they go into these states, they somehow go somewhere. So he figured through the Dr. Penrose is a professor of Cambridge, and he has a theory, he has a mathematics behind. So there was one practitioner, the one who deals with the people that they go to anesthesia, and the other person who is the mathematician. They work together, and they say, okay, let's do the theory to understand how the brain is controlled by consciousness. And they call something called microtubules. Okay? That means the consciousness really, it works out of time and space. It's not subject to time and space. It's something higher. And it grounds to the physical world, the brain, and they found something called the microtubules, which are little attachments that translate the energy within what we call quantum energy, which is out of time and space, and physical energy. Okay, so they found the translators, the ones who translate the two worlds, the mediums, let's say, but at the brain level. Okay? And then obviously these theories have started to revolutionize everything, because it means, okay, if we are a more complex system, what is that? What is consciousness exactly? Because, I mean, yes, there are attachments, but that's what it means. You know, I mean, what is consciousness? So, now, the Urancia book, okay? So the question is, how the Urancia book comes into place? Humanity is always in contact with the spiritual world. I don't call it spiritual world, I call it more the higher planes of existence, because It's not just one, there are many layers of existence. And you have always attempts to teach us, right? The problem is that every time that they reach somebody, this all becomes a new religion, right? That's the problem. And the religions are okay, because they start by spreading the word, but then the greedy people take them and they create power institutions. So this time, these beings, you're not going to do that. We're not going to start another religion, because we have enough religions already in the world. So let's try to contact people who are more scientific this time and more open-minded, not greedy people. Let's contact. So then, what they did is there was a person to make this project more interesting. They decided to contact a person in the United States. This is Dr. Sadler. Dr. Sadler, though he was a Christian, he was a skeptical man. Okay? That means he actually spent most of his life trying to debunk mediums and debunk, psychic phenomena. He even has written books that the mediumship is fraud. Okay? So they took the most skeptical person they could. Yes, Christian, but not really a religious man. Okay? So they took him, and then what they did is that one of these persons that he was studying, because he had in his mind that all the psychic phenomena was nothing more than schizophrenia. He was convinced of that, right? He's a doctor, psychiatrist. So he thinks that anybody who claims that sees angels or sees spirits or something is schizophrenic. Okay, that's his belief system. Okay? So then they bring him another person who also claims to be contacted by higher beings. So he thinks, another schizophrenic, right? Not a big deal. So he starts talking to the guy. And the guy starts giving him information that is very specific, very detailed, very scientific. And then he's thinking, this is not just a guy who's saying that he's in angels. This has to be a little bit more complex than that. So he got interested in the subject. And he was really interested in the subject because he thought, maybe there's something there. Okay? So through the years, Sadler never released the name of the channeling person. Well, somebody was channeling information. That name was never revealed because they didn't want this person to become like a prophet or like some kind of, in religions it's always like that, right? Whoever the channels, he becomes the prophet, he becomes the somehow the son of God or whatever. So to make this non-religious, they get the name of the channeler anonymous. I don't want people to worship him. He's just another human being that has developed psychic abilities. We decided to use him to channel information, but we don't want to create another religion. Okay? So that's why Sadler was a skeptical man, right? Christian, but not really religious, decides to keep the subject anonymous because he was convinced that we don't want to create another religion. So then, once that's established, he starts to take the work very seriously, and he starts to, what he does, he creates a panel of people with diverse backgrounds. People with mathematics degrees, people with physics degrees, people with philosophy degrees, people with, even religious people, and so on, right? So then he said, this guy seems to be really connected with something else. So, to test him, why don't we ask questions? Everything we want to know, right? Origins, who runs the show, right? Who's God? What's God? Who was Jesus, really? All this, because religious people will say, can you ask him about Jesus? Okay, so we ask him about Jesus. Okay, how did the world started? Who creates the universe? What is God? All these questions, right? So then, to their surprise, the individual comes with answers to everything. So then, this project went over many years, till it got to the point that the channeling person was no longer involved. Sadler, a serious person, a doctor, psychiatrist, he said, or he claimed, that these papers going to appear magically, materialized. He said that. So the channeling individual was no longer involved. So I think he was like he was a guy who was trying to just reveal, show me evidence, what he saw. He never wanted to create any kind of religion or institution. He says, all I am, I think this is important for the world to know, so I just wanted to make it public. Right? I'm not going to get involved with the business of religion. I want to let people make their own minds. So all he did is he created an institute. It's called the Urancia Foundation. That just is the custody of the book. That's it. There's nobody preaching. You don't have people that knocking on your doors. Believe in the Urancia book. No. You don't have people saying, if you don't believe in the Urancia book, you're going to go to hell. Or you have people saying, give me money because I know how to save your soul. The Urancia book is for people who really are at some point, like me and other people, questioning how do we put all these things together, science, religion, philosophy into one thing. So that's why I got attracted to this book. Yeah. So I was looking for something that would help me to understand the connection between science, mathematics, religion, all together. But it's not an easy book. Why? Because it's, first of all, written in a language that is from the 1940s, 1930s. It's not a modern language. And secondly, they use terms because even though they try to put everything together in a simple manner, unless you have understanding of physics and mathematics and understanding of religions, you cannot understand it. It's complex. It's a complex book. It's not really meant for the average reader. The Bible or other books, because they use stories, they can be understood by anybody. But this language is not easy to understand, okay? Because it is sophisticated. But on the other hand, it provides a tool for me to say, okay, maybe this is for me a starting point to put all these things together. Because it does have information on how to put together scientific principles with spiritual principles. You know? So this is why I got attracted. So what I did is, okay, let's see if what people are saying, or scientists are finding in the labs, really match what the Urancia book. And think about the Urancia book was not written recently. It started channeling in the 1920s. Okay, so that's where they started, 1920, long time ago. And the channeling stopped in the 1950s. Okay? It's a book that it has probably at least, might have at least 2,000 pages. It's a very, very large book. It has multiple sections, everything from the origin of the universe, who created the universe, why it was created, governance, who runs the show, right? And I started to find connections with some of the scriptures in religions like Christianity. For example, we have the book of John, the Revelation of John, where he sees the end of the world. Right? We know that, Apocalypse. In the Revelation of John, for example, he talks about the Melchizedeks, which are the Ancients of Days. Ancients of Days, which is a group of people who run the show. They're the ones who are the most high level board in the universe. In the book of Revelation, he said, or he claims, that he went to visit them in that dimension, and he claimed that those are the ones who give him the vision about the end of the world, right? So in the Ancient Days appear also during the book, but they explain it in a much more, I would say, logical manner, right? They basically explain how the governments in the universe, how things govern. It talks a little bit about the fights too. The universe was not created just overnight. Politics, talks about the politics of the universe. You know, how there were fights in the universe. He talks about he calls it the Lucifer rebellion. right? Lucifer is not the devil, it's just another being who basically reveals to this government, and he creates some kind of revolution, and it destabilizes the system, but then eventually it talks a bit about how things became stable. So we're running in a governed universe that is run by some individuals, and it talks about how many universes are, and how many planets, and all these things, right? So very interesting if you want to know a little bit of cosmology. But the important part here is what the concern was. The history of Earth. Okay, what exactly is Earth? They call it Urancia because in the universe, that's how they call Earth, Urancia. That's her name. Yeah. So the Urancia book story is how we start. And it's not a simple thing. You look at the planet, and we think about God creating 7 days. No, there it talks about the difficulties, the challenges they have to go to create Earth. It's not a project, it's a project mastered by very high level intelligent beings that through science they start developing the world, and at some point in our existence they create what they call humanoid. It's like the caveman, right? And the caveman still is an animal, meaning it doesn't have a soul, to say so. But the caveman at some point develops a brain, a structure that is good enough to incarnate a soul. So what is actually a soul? The book talks about it. But in a nutshell, a soul is an energy system that is nothing more than a piece of God, a piece of the universe. And it evolves. It's not just a system that just created overnight. And the human being is basically a vehicle for this energy to have experience and evolve and grow. Right? That's why the crazy was for these beings, us, to start having experience, and they call us, evolutionary systems, because in the universe, explained in the Urancia book, the different kind of beings. There are some of them like us that evolve. That means we don't learn, we're not created knowing everything overnight. Well, you have other type of beings that they're created automatically. They have, let's say, superpowers. They already know everything, right? So we ourselves, we are different. We discover things. Now, why they created us and not like angels or something else? Is because scientific research they did themselves, they figured that for the conscious beings to be perfect, they have to go through an evolutionary system. Okay, that's why they created us, because the other beings, called the angels or other beings, they were created in a different way, but they observed that those beings don't have the same power that they wanted to have because they get stuck, they don't evolve, they don't move upwards. They're like, because they're giving everything, they don't really have the motivation to move. So they wanted to have an individual, a conscious being, who had always the motivation to be always moving and learn and evolving, okay? Because the universe, God, is really learning because to the conscious beings. For them to have a very powerful universe, they say we need to have beings who really want to always learn and evolve. So that's why we are here. Right? We are, let's say, a product of the our research in terms of what is the best way to create a being. You say, well, I don't like to be human. I hate to die. I would like to be an angel and be mortal forever. Right? That's what we like. But they don't see it that way. They say, no, mortality is really what's going to make you perfect. Okay? That's why we are mortal. Not because it's a punishment like the Bible says. Actually, it's a gift. According to the book. It's not a punishment. No. What it's saying is that because you are mortal, you always fear, you always want to live this life as intense as possible. That's what it drives you to change and to evolve and improve. If I tell you you're eternal, why would you do anything? I'm eternal. I can just be sitting here there forever. I have no motivation. They realize that time and space makes conscious beings move upwards, evolve. And this is a very enlightening information because I always thought, okay, why they will have to die? You probably wonder, I love life, why do I have to die? It's planet. That's how we designed it, but it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a way for you, because the plan is, according to your book, is that you have a being that we want to be better than the beings that we created before. So let's say we are an improved version. And that's why the war in heaven. You hear of this war in heaven, right? These angels and demons fighting. The war in heaven is really because they saw us as a threat. Okay? Why? Because according to these higher beings, us, we have the potential to become even more powerful than them. And then they say, why do you do that? Why are you creating beings that they become more powerful than us? So that created a whole revolution in the universe. Okay? So it's not like you have Jesus who was, against the devil and the devil is evil. No, it's just pure politics. That's what it's like. And it makes more sense, right? Because we ourselves are politics. In politics as well. So we understand that very well. You have people, you have beings who don't agree with us. And we don't have the fault. We don't have fault in that because we just are, right? But the beings that created us, they created us with the idea that I want a very powerful being. And it's only through evolution, by going to the mortal realms, and by going to the time and space, that I'm going to make that being. I cannot create it overnight. I cannot make a robot. It has to be consciously done. Okay? So this is, to me, music to my ears, because then I understand, really, as a logical being, what is the purpose of Earth, of being here. Okay? So then it's slowly. But the question is, okay, because like any religion, right, I can give you any theology. Oh, we were created by aliens, we were created by God and Adam and Eve. I can make us any story. I want to explain creation. And this is obviously not end. I can come with million ways of explaining who runs in the universe, what is going on. Now, this book, the difference between this book and other books is they're giving you the scientific elements to prove it. And this is what I love about it. Because it's not just saying, this is how it works. No. It's telling you, scientifically, how can you prove it? So we become convinced. Because they created us with a mind for a reason. Use it. It's not for you to believe in things just because of that. You have to use your mind. So this part of this, the revelation is to say, now you are evolved enough, as humans, evolved enough to start understanding who you are, and now it's time for you to get this information so you can move to higher levels. Okay? We don't want religions. We don't want them anymore. They just create division between you guys. We want you to start understanding who you are, and we want you to give science people the elements to start working on projects so they can realize it. I had a friend of mine, he said, I'm not going to give his name because he told me not to give his name. He's a professor at University of Tennessee, professor of medicine. He uses the Urancia book for his research. Okay? And he's gotten millions of dollars of grants. Okay? Because Urancia book, he told me, it tells me really who we are and how we work. So it is through experimentation, not through just talking, experimentation, that we start realizing that this book really is giving us something. Okay? So, because it's good to be skeptical. I always been skeptical myself. But skepticism has a limit, meaning that you always have to be also open to things that, okay, maybe, but let's experiment with it. Okay? So this is why the Urancia book came to me. It does have a full chapter about the Jesus story. Obviously, the Catholic Church would never have said that because it totally contradicts everything, right? So the story is even more powerful than the Bible. You know, it's a scientific project. It is not the Jesus story is not a. It is not a son of God coming here to say blah blah blah. No, scientific project. Okay, created by scientists to elevate the consciousness of the world. Okay, and they use science. The book explains how it works scientifically. Okay, the miracles how it works scientifically. So miracles work because it's a manipulation of the reality to mind. Okay, so it's not like the miracles were just happen because no, there's a way for us to open our minds to see our potential. Obviously, we cannot make miracles of the Jesus of the book, but it's just showing you the potential that you have. That's why in Jesus' mission was to say, you guys here, everybody here, has the potential to do what I do. Okay? He never said worship me. I'm the Son of God, worship me. No. So it's saying, it's here to teach people to open their minds and say, stop worshiping fake gods. Those are just creating of your mind. Start thinking God about you. And the miracles that I see, that you see, that I do them because of that power. That's what I was teaching. So obviously, if that's this official story, the church has no point on that, right? There has there's no church really. So you will never have a church saying this is real. Right? Because that destroys the whole, not just the Catholic, every church that follows Christianity. Christianity was really a way for us to understand our true potential. To enlighten you. Saying, this is what can you be? And you have in you the potential through evolution. He did not contradict evolution, the opposite. He thought that it's only through evolution that you can reach that potential. So it was teaching. Right? And the first thing he thought, stop worshiping their God. It's not fake. Of course, that's why they killed him. Not because he had to suffer for us, it was pure politics. Those guys didn't like to say, okay, what do you mean you're telling my God is a fake? Yes, it is. Well, listen, that means you're taking my power away. If you're telling people that you are the power, and my God is not powerful, where that leaves me? Nowhere. So that's why they killed him. Because he was trying to make people realize the power is within them. And that's doing well. So they call it rebellions, they call it, you are the Savior. How can you say that we are not the one who's teaching the real God? God's fake? And he had to endure all that. Okay? So it was a project for us to realize that. And it's only now, with science, not with religion, that we are understanding the true message. Okay? The message was not really about worshiping some kind of Son of God because he was wanting to save us, because we have a sin that we have to be guilty about, and blah, 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 blah. Those are theologies that created to take the power away. Because I'm an institution, you need to come to me. I need to make you feel guilty and take the power away. So they took all the true meaning of the teachings and they started converting what we call now religions. Okay? So it is very, very enlightening, but also very disruptive. Because imagine you go to any religious people who say this, rejection automatically. Because everything is about belief system. If you believe in something so strongly, it's very hard to change. unless you really want to do it. Okay? Anyway, this is a little bit about that. Sorry, time is passing by. I just want to give you a couple of things about. Maybe I'm going to just talk about a few because we don't have much time to talk about all of them. The difference between. Let me talk about something that. This is an important one. Matter, mind, and spirit. Okay? You have clear about the Trinity concept in the Christianity, right? Trinity. The real Trinity is you, I mean. Okay? The universe, it has a Trinity as well. Okay? We are a spirit, mind, and body. That's what it's saying, right? So, what exactly is spirit? What is matter, or bodies, and what is mind? Okay? Matter is energy that has form, but it's conditioned by mind. Okay? That means the mind that we have is connected to our bodies. Okay? That's why what we think is reflected in our health. Okay? That's why they design our physical bodies. Because we want these guys to understand that the mind is powerful. How you will understand if you don't get sick? Oh, why do I get sick? I get sick because I'm not thinking right. I'm not using my power right signals. So the beings that created us, very intelligent beings, to say, we want to create a body that is linked to the mind, but the mind is going to be dictating what the body is. Okay? And then he's thinking, that way the individual understands that his mind is powerful. Otherwise, how are you going to see that? Okay? One thing that is important to understand is that we are free will individuals. No angel is going to appear here to tell us what to do. No, that doesn't exist. On the other hand, we have to find things by ourselves. So they have to give us the tools, and the body is the tool. So you get sick, simple, you're not thinking right. That's what they say, right? You're not here, something you're not using your power right. And the spirit, they call it the most highest reality. Okay? What is exactly spirit? A spirit is basically an energy system that has the knowledge of the universe of everybody concentrated in that energy system. Okay? So the spirit is really your guide because it has the library of the universe. And it's the one who's pushing you always upwards, moving you up. Okay? So the Urancia book will teach you want somebody to teach you, connect to the spirit. The spirit is the teacher. Okay? And that was what Jesus was trying to teach you when he came into earth. You want to learn about God? Talk to yourself. Because you have that potential. The spirit is that part of you, really, who is connecting you to everything in the universe. The highest reality. I call it. Let's see if I can find another one that will be interesting to. The position of the mind. Okay, this is an interesting concept. The mind conditions the matter. But the mind is the interface between the spirit and matter. The spirit cannot really interfere in the physical world, but it can do it to the mind. Okay? You can think about the spirit as the architect, the ones that somehow is designing your life. And the builder is the mind, the one who makes it reality. Okay? So creativity, your dreams, your visions, they all come from the spirit. The highest reality, okay? The most, let's say, the really high self, to put it in metaphysical terms. But that high reality is to have a way to see its power. You have an idea? Mira says, and her husband had the idea to create the center. Always tied to the spirit, creativity. And then to the mind, you figure, I need to get money, right? I need to get a space, I need to get finances, I need to get people, and makes it real. Okay? So everything starts really with the spirit. But the spirit is the one who gives you the visions, the ideas, the goals. But the mind is the one who tells you how this can make it, how to make this real. Okay? And this is how it works. Okay? And this is a reflection of God, by the way. The true God, it works the same way. Okay? And this is how it's saying, we are nothing more than a reflection what we call God, because this is also how the true God works. Okay, so what exactly is reality? What we see, our lives, our relationships, our parents, our jobs. Is it really random, as we think it is? And they're saying no. Everything you see is a shadow cast of what is going on at the spirit level. Okay? So those guys that go into depressions, that go into miseries in life, because they have a problem there. They have to go on the spiritual level, fix themselves, and the reality will change. Okay? Why do we do that? Because they want you to learn how to control the power. The manifestation of your spirit is very powerful. So if that there is not doing, you're not have a good connection between spirit, mind, and matter, the result is a bad reality. So it's telling you that really everything starts with yourself. I don't do well in school. I don't do well with work. I'm not getting the right job. Life is not doing well for me. I'm not getting the right partner. It's not them, it's you. Okay? Because everything happens around you, the way they design reality, this is a design by very high intelligent beings, is that the design of this is based on the reflection of your inner higher self. And that you will understand the power that you have. But it's only experience. Okay? And this is what Jesus was trying to teach. Obviously nobody understood. Because back in those days, they had to worship a God to make things happen. Right? They would go and say, God, please this, God, please do that. God, and praying, please God, I'm sorry I did this, I'm sorry that they create the concept of sin. Oh, I'm sinner, blah, blah. You say, no, there's no sin. When you think about sin, it's just a law of cause and effect. That's it. There's a universal system to keep things stable. Whenever you do something against natural law, it goes back to you. So there's nobody there's no reason to feel guilty about sins. It's just a way for you to learn. Okay? The religions were teaching different things. That's why he was always, in a way, trying to teach these things in a very kind of use stories. Because people were so dogmatized in those kind of belief systems, they couldn't understand them. But the power really is within you. There's nothing else. Right? This is a little bit of an enlightening story about how we work. Okay, so now, does God exist? Yes. How do I know that? It's within you. How do I prove it? Well, it says there, the closer you are to that energy, your spirit, the closer you are to that energy, the better reality you have in your life. So, life is teaching you to align with the universal system, because think that the beings that created us because they want us to have a future in the universe. But we need to learn that the universe has rules and laws. Otherwise, we destroy the universe. We destroy ourselves, right? We see the planet destroyed. Okay? So how can they let us be higher level beings if we cannot take care of our planet? So first we say, you figure it out. But to make you realize that you have potential, I'm going to put a little fragment of God within you. And when you get closer to that energy, eventually you will see your life becomes great. That's not true. Oh yes, it's true. What it means, okay? Getting closer to God means understanding how everything works and aligned to the natural laws. And then what is happening, because you're more aligned with the universal laws, the reality that you experience is better. You have your life. So you are experiencing that God is an energy system that has the knowledge of everybody here, because we're all connected. So imagine this energy understands everything that happens, not just on this planet, but in all the planets and all the universes. So he has a lot of information. So he created laws, because these laws are based on wisdom that make the universe harmonious and stable. But you have to experience your life to understand that these laws are there for a reason. You know? I like money. I'm going to kill this guy to steal his money. What happens if you kill somebody? Well, that person has family. And that family will feed you. Eventually, they will kill your family. You know? And then eventually, they might kill you. And then you start creating yourself a hell life. A hellish life. Because you're not able to control your power. Yes, you can kill that person if you want to. But that's going against natural law. Okay? And why? Because obviously, destroying somebody's life is against their own will, and you're attempting to the creation. So that makes you realize by experience. If not, look at the life of the criminals. El Chapo, in the United States. Look at if he's going to an easy life. No, right? It's a consequence of all those millions of people, thousands of people he killed and help and all that damage that he goes back again. I mean, the system basically is teaching us that as you start to align with this system, you experience a better life. So in few words, there's no reason not to be happy. There's no reason to be poor. Jesus was never ever to say, it's good to be poor. No. On the contrary, there's no reason to be poor. You are poor because you're not able to understand how you work. Because if you are harmonious, you really control all the energies around you, and everything works for you. So that's one of the interesting teachings that I got from this book. And let's try to think about, we talk about this reality. Okay? You have here in religions, they say God creates everything, right? And that seems to be okay, but then you think, how? How? Is there really a hand that creates things? So, the answer to this question of God creates everything is that in physics we understand that it's an energy system. We don't know where it comes from. That's a fact. Let's say it comes from, we call it pre-time space. Something comes from outside time and space. That is really the origin of matter and everything we see. That's factual. Okay? That is not just a religion thing. So if somebody wants to visualize really the energy of God, look around. Everything is sustained because of that energy. Okay? So I don't believe in God. Well, then you don't believe this building exists. You don't believe that this table exists. Because that table exists because it's an energy system that keeps it solid and matter. And then you say, well, what is that energy? Where it comes from? Well, maybe that is what God is. An energy system that makes everything we see real. And they call it that the pre-time space energy, or space potency, or pre-reality. That is the energy that creates everything we see. Now, I'm going to skip this one because this is a little bit too technical. This one might not be. This is an interesting one. What about our minds? Who created our minds? The minds that we have, all of us, are shared in the universe. There's only one mind, really. One mind. Okay? There's no, and we share a little piece of our mind with the power of personality. We think that we are individuals, but in reality we are sharing one mind. That's crazy, right? But that's what it is. That's why we can connect to each other, to telepathy, to emotions, because we have one mind. Really, what you're sharing is one mind, really, that creates all individual minds. So we have an illusion that we're individuals, but really it's just one mind being used by everyone in the universe. Okay? And these are the ones who dictate a little bit about who we are, based on different types of energies, different types of minds. Talk about different types of minds, obviously. Talk about different types of minds, but they're part of the same mind. They start with they call it the adjunctive spirit minds, which are the minds that the animals have. And they call it the most primitive mind. They call it non-teachable mind. I mean, yes, animals can be taught certain ways, but they cannot really be conscious of things. They cannot really have their own ideas. This is what they're saying. This primitive mind. And then you have, they call it evolving Urancia mind. This is where we are. We are minds that are always evolving. We're always growing. We're always realizing things. We're always moving upwards. This is what we are. And then finally, right, they have what they call the cosmic mind, or what they call it metaphysical universal mind. The mind that really covers the whole universe. Okay? So we're all one mind within the universe, just different levels of minds. We share the same mind with the animals, we share the same mind even with ourselves, with higher beings. This is how all these things of telepathy and mediumship works. Because really, we're all connected as one. Anyways, I'm going to stop now because I know that we don't have much time. Maybe there's time for some questions. I can make this presentation available for anybody, but we don't have much time, so I'm going to stop here, and I'm open for questions now. Anyone from the audience, from the public?
Where can this book
Sorry?
Where can we buy this book?
You don't have to buy it, it's free. Just go to the Urancia, it's called Urancia.org, and there's, you can download it. Okay? It is a download there, so you can get it. It's a very long book. It's a long, and it's not easy to read. But it's a good way for us to get an idea. So any more questions about before we go into lunch?
About the book, I saw we also have it in different languages available.
Any language, any human language. Yes, and they don't. The books are the foundation is not asking for membership or is not asking for you to join any particular institution. It's just spreading knowledge for whoever wants to learn. Okay. This is a little bit about the idea of this movement. Anybody?
Any other questions?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
As I felt that the thing which you said, that religion has given the basics. And in that basics, as much I have studied about Hinduism and Catholicism, with that I came to know that in Hinduism it is said that Aham Brahma Asmi Dvitiyo Na Asmi, means I am the God, there is not another God. I am the maker of myself. And in Christianity too, something like that I have heard, but I don't know.
Christianity, the thing is, there were too many Christianities. There was a Catholic Christianity. It is a system that is a combination of Catholicism. Okay, that is basically a system that it was aligned with the Roman Empire. So they had to make a system that somehow was compatible with the political system. So they could not teach you that, because the whole idea of the empire, I want them, the Roman Empire needed to have a religion to make everybody align with them. You know, it's like a power system. So when the Christianity came to Europe, to Rome, it started like that. The same idea, right? But then when the priest of Rome hear that Christianity and say, I'm sorry, but this is not going to work for us. It doesn't work for us. Because if you say that, it goes against the will of the Roman Empire. Because what they wanted, they always use religions as a way to keep the system stable. So there's a political reason, okay? So then they took Christianity, which is the one that you know, and they had to change it to make it compatible with the political system. Because at the end of the day, Constantine, which is the Roman emperor that started Christianity, says he didn't care about what religion. He only cared about a religion that was able to keep the power. Okay? So the priests had to transform those teachings, and they created the theology that we have in Catholic. Why? Because they need to be compatible with the political system. Okay? The people of Catholic people were not stupid, very smart people. The problem is they have pressure, because my job and my life, because Constantine was using force. If you don't do what I do, I just kill you. So then they will say, okay, I have a choice. So he said, I like Christianity because people like it, popular. It was spreading all over Europe. So he liked it because it was popular. But he said, take that and make it a religion of Rome. So the priests of Rome had to take it and transform it into a system that had to be compatible. Okay? It was not them, they didn't do it for really, bad reason. They had no choice. Because Constantine was not going to say, okay, you can find your God within, because that means I have no control. I'm giving you power. As the contrary, I want to get power. So this is the reason. Okay? Next
I thought that religion too says that you can be what you want to be, but it is we who don't use that potential to be whatever, and then whatever we are because whatever we did.
There's a political also reason for that. Imagine, for example, if I'm in a country where I empower people. Okay. That doesn't work for financial systems, that doesn't work for control systems. So there's a lot of things to learn, we have to learn. The first thing we have to learn is that our economic system and our political system has to be aligned with it. Okay? And this is what's happening right now. You know, eventually the economic systems are collapsing or they're changing into cryptocurrency, whatever. So eventually we give people the power. Okay? Because the reality is that the system cannot change overnight. It was controlled by a group of greedy people, Roman Empire, many empires that have existed to the centuries. So they could not reach to us without going to them, because they're the ones who control information. So when Christianity came to Europe, they had to adjust it, because otherwise it will disappear. Constantine says, either you make it something that is good for me, or I will just destroy Christianity. Okay? So Christians had no choice. It was a political, it was that or nothing. So a lot of Christians died. There was a persecution of Christians because not everybody agreed with this project of making Christianity control system. But the ones who aligned with the Roman Empire, because they realized that they're pragmatic. If you don't do this, we die. So the Christianity survived because of that. So Catholicism is really an evolution system, it's better than what they had before, because before it was more controlling. So it gives you concepts like survival of the soul, the immortality of the soul, the power of forgiveness. All these concepts are real, but somehow adjusted. So in a way, you're right. Christianity and Hinduism and Buddhism were really the same at the very beginning. You have, for example, religions like Manichaeans. I remember Manichaeans. Manichaeans, they were trying to unify Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, and Christianity in one, because they were really the same teachings. But it's the political aspect and the historical aspect is really what makes religions go in the way they go. The information that is passed to us as humans is the same. It's just that we decide to change it because our system of power and control. That's why it works. Right? Sorry, make sense?
Anybody else? I will say thank you, Dr. Rao. The topic was really interesting. And I will request Diane to come and give this thing, to Dr. Rao as our closing ceremony.
This one?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not giving, I don't know, whatever the size may be, but if it is bigger, then summer it will be okay to wear loose clothing so that the air can flow.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And the other one to Mr. Jocelyn Sanu, who is here since morning. And he is always there to help me, help us.
Thank you. I will. Thank you very much.
As today in the morning, 8 o'clock I called, even if I have called 6 o'clock, 5:30, I have always got the answer. So thank you all for being here and listening so nicely. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Takes me that can.
I will turn off. I don't know. Just like,
I don't know. You can.
okay then.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Yes.